building permit for me, as per the ordinance.
Right.
There's no going through the planning commission, there's no, you know, studies.
So when permits are issued, do you look at the type of waste management system that they have set up?
I don't.
There's rules in the state, they were developed, the last set of rules in 2000 and 2000. 70-20 rules, you can go to your computer is probably the best source because they're changed once in a while. They tend not to publish them in a book. But a lot of the rules or the things you're looking at in here come from state rules already. They add a few things to them. And even local ordinances pick parts of the state rules that they want to look at too and just add it in. So it isn't like it's just free for all. There is a lot of rules that apply with nutrient management.
So they separate it, because I'm looking here in this particular one, and this is developed under performance standards, is land development. So is that a separate committee or a commissioner or somebody, is a separate person that deals with something like that specifically?
Depends on your, what you're applying for is on the land development part. So if you're in an ag, we're predominantly ag here. So if somebody wants to write a permit for just about anything, it's gonna fall under the ag district. If they wanna open up a commercial business, then we have to rezone and then write the permits for commercial. See an auto dealership out in ag, we have to rezone it. Typically, what I'm finding on permits is grain bins, outbuildings, office, or machine sheds or shops. In this particular case, where they came in and grabbed a permit from me, which hasn't been filled out yet, they're proposing 2 large sheds with an office in it, and a full septic system within the office, and 4,000 baby pigs. And the animal units on that is 200. And my big concern, and I told them my concern, twofold. They need to split the lot. In other words, they need to survey it and have it recorded. And at what point does the 200 become 300? So how much weight do those piglets have to put on to hit that 300 mark that locks them into a moratorium in Lockhart? Because when they hit that point, they're out, they gotta get out. They gotta get all those piglets out of there, reduce that number, always keep it below 300. That's my main concern.
And did you go to EPA?
Pardon me?
Did you go to MPCA or EPA? Because don't they have.
They'll know.
They'll tell you.
Who's gonna go out there and weigh?
Yeah. Well,
There's 4,000 little pigs. Are you gonna go out there and get a scale and weigh everyone every day? I want, that's my concern.
And like I said, by no means, and I want to emphasize this, there's got to be a balance. We want to make sure that, you know, we're not tying hands of really anybody, but we're, you know, putting forward, you know, something that's really going to be in the best interest of the community.
We thought as a group, when we first started talking about it, 300 is a good number. 300 and up, because the initial proposal was a lot more than 300. Large sows. That changed. Now it's a matter of what are you gonna do on your own local, because this whole thing is about you guys, not about the county right now. It's the township's getting together and trying to craft an ordinance. You can always be more as restrictive or more restrictive in the county, so. And we're certainly willing to work with you, that's why we're at the table here.
Right, exactly. You know, we don't want to, you know, as the, you know, in the township, I'm just somebody who would look at stuff, I have no, you know. But even still, I would like to see, you know, it done to where it's not tying the hand of anybody, but it promotes. That's always been it, you know, from day one. And like I said, looking at these, I want to stay out of it. Because our first meeting, I was at the first meeting, we said, if we can handle it at the township level, great. How much support are we gonna get from the county other than, you know, what happens if the township turns around and somebody says, well, by gosh, we don't like what this doggone, you're adhering to this, we're gonna sue you. Sue the township. Well, what the heck, you know, I mean.
Welcome to our.
Yeah, I know, welcome to the world, I know, that's how it is, and so, that is a concern, and
you raise a great point in here, the toxic levels. Mark, does the state PCA cover toxic levels under the manure management plan? And say, hey, listen, you get that toxic level, you,
It's not legal to pollute, I guess, so just basing it by size and numbers is not always the way it's looked at. I don't know about toxic levels, I guess
Well, that's
not a
how-
common term.
So the big dairy in Thief River got told that by the EPA they had to clean their lagoon because they were in a converted, new owner had it. He cleaned the lagoon. They had an awful smell, they got complaint on the toxicity. They came in and the EPA shut them down and fined them. So they ended up going to court, and they won in court, but it was 2 years after the whole thing was closed, because the judge said the EPA came and can't tell you to clean your lagoon and then come back and fine you and tell you not to clean your lagoon. So that's how that's an example of how that sometimes works. That's an extreme example, I'll be the first to say that. But, and that one had other problems all along. But that would be how MPCA or can possibly work, I should say.
I know we've got at least 2 feedlots that I'm aware of, maybe there's a third or fourth one, but I know that the dairy one in Rockwell, right? I know they're talking about expansion, but they're already under the auspices of the MPCA and all their rules and permitting. And then the turkey barns over by Twin Valley, and they went through our planning commission. Is there another feedlot? So there's 2.
Oh, yeah, there's another one. Across the road, there's a beef outfit that's NPDES, they're over 1,000 animal units.
Okay. So
On the north side.
we've got 3, and so that's why you don't see a lot of dots on ours. And
Right.
a lot on Blue Earth, so I get you, you don't wanna see
Yeah,
a lot of
that's
dots like
it.
Blue Earth
That
County.
brings the point where, you know, it was reported in the paper where there was this huge economic growth down in Blue Earth in Mankato. But we're talking 400 feedlots in Blue Earth County. You know, if you turn the page, this is what Norman County looks like if you put 400 feedlots in there.
You're also talking about one of the historically high hog counties in the state.
It is.
I mean,
I understand that.
Yeah.
We're just saying that that's what was reported, that what the economic advantage to the county was. What they didn't seem to say was that there was 400 feedlots there.
and I'm assuming those are just the ones over the 300 animal units? Or is it all of them?
Well,
So is it from
if they
0
have
on
a-
up? Or is it
If they have
300
a
over?
feedlot designation, I'm only assuming that it's 300 and up, but that doesn't necessarily mean what the dots are there, maybe they have a different designation. I know I come from Martin County, so we get that, Mary Jo, it's Martin County. I'm close to LeSueur, but I come from Martin County, and you know, you've got an excellent report. That's just the way of life down there, there's barns and houses and everywhere, and sometimes there's barns on properties without houses. That's just been the way of life. And you talk to the cafe owners down there, and without the farming operation in southern Minnesota, they'd be sunk. So there is an economic engine down there, but we're up here. So it's just a different world up here versus down there.
Some of the follow-up phone calls I've made since I've been down there, you know, just calling random places and things, and I got somebody on the phone, and one of the comments is, well, yeah, it stinks here, yeah, it's worse in the spring, I suppose, but you're just used to it.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah. I almost wanted to chuckle when you're talking about the flies in that, because that's kind of what you grow up with when you're on I grew up with cattle and hogs and chickens, those flies and all that, and it's like, but that's the way it is down there. But I drive around up here, every day, and it's like lots of bins, flat land, lots of farms, lots of beautiful soil and great crops, and you don't see, 3 feedlots.
There's 40-some registered feedlots in Norman County, and that's what these dogs represent. So if it's in shoreland, 10 cows would be considered a feedlot.
A what?
10 cows
10 cows.
within 300 feet of a stream.
Okay. Cattle and horses, what do they have? Say,
Maybe the state, that's land.
probably have more horses up here than we have. Yeah.
So anyway, there would be some thoughts on that.
Van, do you have anything for Lockhart?
Yeah, actually, has anyone else read that yet? It's Livestock Governance and Land Use, a guide for Minnesota law officials, put out by the Department of Agriculture. Okay, I think that if anyone can get on the computer, print this off, or just read it on your computer and read through it, it would be highly recommended. Because it basically touches on exactly what we're doing right here. It's, answers questions, like, we've done our planning and analysis, and we're ready to set the plan in motion, where should we begin? What aspects of animal agriculture are regulated at the federal and state level? It goes on and on, it answers all kinds of questions, it actually tells, different ag zones, what, you know, is going on in different counties. It's, everybody should be reading it, because, 2006, March 2006. Just because, I mean, it kind of would help when we're trying to put together what we were trying to do here. But, because we haven't really touched on it, I know we've been talking about doing this and stuff, I kind of just wanted to get a feel for where everybody is at on this, just because, you know, we talk about this information all the time, but, like, I would like to know, what does everybody think about this 300 animal use? What, you know, what is everybody's thought?
Well, what does that 300 animals use do? Just triggers what?
Triggers a lot of things. It triggers a process of 299 where you would just come and get a permit. Again, a building permit for me, work with Mark on any plans, if there are any, and go about your business. Versus 300, where now it's a conditional use application, which is a couple months long, 2 hearings in front of the planning commission and the county board. All have to give unanimous approval. Typically, there's conditions on the application or on the approval, if they approve it, of how you operate. Conditions range from hours of operation to lighting, to dust control, to roads, everything.
And that's completely up to the planning and zoning committee?
It's completely up to John's group, yep.
So that's a total control of the county, the planning and zoning?
They are a recommending body to the county board, but typically what they refer to the county board gets passed.
And what regulations do they follow? Planning and zoning committee?
Well, they'll follow, you know, our setback requirements, but again, that 300 animal units really triggers the hearing process. Now, everybody within a half mile, typically I do a mile within that property, gets notified that they're applying and shows up at that hearing. The DNR gets a letter, the MPCA gets a letter, the township gets a letter. It's a whole different process than coming into my office and, you know, a half hour later after we've discussed and put some ideas down on a permit. It's a 2-month process. So it's a big deal.
But if you're gonna have that many animals, you're probably planning for a little while anyway.
Yeah. Usually you're not coming in just for 300, you're coming in for 3,000. Big time operations. You're not gonna cut it right at that level, typically.
What happens if they add one more barn in a couple of years or 5 years?
Well, then you know,
Does that
you
mean?
can't,
does that
it'll
combine-
trigger you.
No, does that make it from 200, 300, or does that make it a 600 animal?
If you were permitted at 290 and fell under that threshold and decided to put another barn up there, you'll have to go through the planning commission, because you're gonna trigger the 300. Unless you're doing a barn with 5 of them. You'll trigger it, and then they'll take it up. then the best part of that whole process, it involves the public, the press, and everybody else comes to that meeting. You voice your opinion, and I tell you what, my years of experience with government, and especially planning commissions, the public shows up. A lot of what the public says during the meeting will get on that conditional use for conditions. They feel strongly
That
about
was
it.
my question does the public input, sway the zoning and planning committee?
It'll sway it on conditions. Will it sway it on a yes or no vote? Possibly. I don't know. But I guarantee you, it'll sway them on conditions that they put on there because it's your backyard. And if there's a road issue, if there's a smell issue, if there's a toxic issue, any kind of issue that comes up, it'll be addressed. And what a great forum to do it. They have the ability to table a hearing. They have a certain amount of time they have to take it up again. I think it's 60 days.
But they don't have any authority to create a higher regulation than the county sets.
Typically, they're gonna go by the regulations, but the triggering point is the conditions put on the application.
Is an example of a condition put on that.
Hours of operation, lighting, sounds, noise, dust control, sand and gravel pit, we get more of those than anything, dust control's a big one. Haven't had any for feedlots, so it would be a new experience, if they were gonna go 300 animal units or more, but I could only guess that we would work closely with Mark and Soil and Water and get involved in the hearing. We have one commissioner that sits on the planning commission, so he's input to the county board. I can tell you it's a good process, and it works. And it's backed by a lot of attorneys that got together and put together, crafted good conditional use laws and procedures on how to act. Been going for a lot of years, and I think in a case like this, it would work well. Would it answer all your questions? No. Some of them are really tough ones, your research questions. It really takes years sometimes to figure out what the problem is. Very tough. Lisa puts it out to the public. The permit part doesn't. They just come in, if you want a grain bin, you don't have the public coming in behind them saying, where are they gonna put that grain bin? And then put it on their property.
Okay, so,
Oh,
also
sorry.
wondering, just, as far as ordinances, specific ordinances go on at township level, what is everyone thinking? Aside, like, we keep hearing setback and animal units, is there anything else that anybody's considering as far as ordinances that should be put into effect township level? Besides like a setback or,
That's what we're researching. So
yeah, does anybody, but I'm just wondering, since we're,
Well, I'm mainly concerned about water quality.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm worried about is if you're gonna go ahead and, whether it's land is for tile in the wet spring or wet fall, and if they get permit to go ahead and tile, incorporate that manure in our sandy soil, it's gonna get in the tile into our streams, and that's what I'm really mainly concerned about. And that's why,
And
there
that
should be.
doesn't necessarily just come with over 300 animal units.
No, that can come with anything, but I mean, the point is, if we have, say, 4 inches of rain in the fall and want to incorporate the fall, pretty good chance that some of that's gonna get into the tile system and into our streams somehow. And that's what I'm really concerned about.
Makes you kind of think back though, too, remember what we were talking about earlier, be careful what you wish for?
Yep.
Some of our fertilizers that we're applying can end up in that tile in the stream, so.
one thing
we might measure it.
I did bring that up actually, and, what I was answered by several, not just, by Ben Cato, was that they don't like to incorporate when they know rain is coming, just for that reason, because it doesn't, no use as far as, fertilizer value goes, to have that rinse off the soil in the first place. I mean, that is one thing, but you can't say, oh, it's not gonna rain. You don't know. One day, you could get 5 inches and you're supposed to get over, I mean, so that, yeah, but you and I know that that's a concern.
Well, that's the same deal here, I had an article that was large feedlot operations facing lawsuits on mainly out of Des Moines, Iowa, again, they use manure and commercial fertilizer, nitrates are getting in the water. And it's a big costly item, and they're suing, so I mean, like you said, we gotta watch what we wish for, because it.
There's a lot of nitrates in fertilizer.
Yeah, yeah, and it can come back to bite us.
Yeah. And there's a lot of tiling going on out there.
Yep, yeah, yeah. And I guess that's the only thing I could be concerned that they'd have to, you know, they'd be up to the individual mandate and want to try to keep it. Once it's got in the pile and then the ditch is probably to stop it.
And obviously air quality too, that is.
Yeah.
both on board commits,
I know there's one person brought up to me about, and it's not even with the hospital, not the radio. But, his, stockpile of like turkey manure, you know, in between, you know, when they clean out, they can't store it down there, so they bring it wherever by somebody's field and dump it off and let it sit there. And where, there's no regulations on where that stuff can sit.
And you can't pile it by a ditch or a drainage way, that's what you're asking, or certain types of soil.
He was, the way I understood it, he was pretty close to somebody's place that he was placed.
I'm not sure about the space in there.
One thing I did notice I saw a couple different ordinances that stated, where it had been written up, and I know that through, we're talking about these big, feedlots that have, that have to go by the manure management plans. I know that they have to contact the Minnesota, I don't know, NCCA or someone to say before they're gonna spread. But.
Because of odor.
Yeah, they're supposed to contact whatever government agency it is before they're spread and let them know what they know what they're looking at. I know
Usually when
that,
they agitate it outside the room, that would be a requirement. Or like dairy manure where it's sealed until you start mixing it up so that you can spread it, then of course it gives off tremendous odor. Whereas hog manure is, it's in a solution, the chicken manure is probably all on the bottom of the tank and liquid's coming out.
I did notice ordinances that asked or stated that, in the process of spreading, to contact neighbors and give them a window. So if anyone has any, events going on, to try to work around it. I think ordinances like that would be great. Something. Just to kind of just say, hey, we're gonna do this. I don't know if that can be done without being, biased. Cause you're talking about, you gotta look at both, that you can't sit and regulate, spreading manure versus this spreading of commercial fertilizer either. So that's, a big thing is we're looking at that. I don't know.
One of the bigger things is you need somebody to enforce it.
Exactly, and that's one thing that I think every township in here really gotta realize that, in forming these ordinances, that means that they're gonna have to have a monthly meeting and somebody that's going to have to be in charge of,
It's be on the town board.
Exactly. And what is everybody thinking as far as setbacks, like from homes? That's, because I keep hearing, I've heard so many different things and I have no idea. And let's say we're gonna throw offset out the window, what is everybody thinking as far as setback from homes?
Say a mile.
I think it depends on the size of the
And a mile between the operations.
Well, if we're
so-
saying like over 300 cattle units,
But there's, I mean, your cattle has 10,500. I don't think 1,000 and 10,500 should be the same law.
and there are actual ordinances that I found where they did, group them into like different sizes. It was different, but I found nothing over 1 mile as far as, setbacks go. I found nothing over a mile.
From a private residence.
So, I'm saying if any anyone's looking to go over a mile, it's really gotta be stuff that, you know, you really gotta stick it. Really good enough to be, have some firm backing on that one. Because it hasn't been done in this little while time so far.
Ours is a half mile, yours is a private. And
Most of them are quarter mile and a half.
yeah, in that gap, you know, on a municipal board is a mile, you go 300,000, so and then 2 miles is 100,000.
Some people more for
Yeah, 40 minutes, yeah. Yeah. I know what Lewis says, but.
Most of them actually are.
If you actually look at that, that's from '07, and it's to, they had the same concerns, so there's objectives in there. So I'm more concerned what they get. I mean, and the other thing is, you're talking 440 feedlots, that's all feedlots, and 288 of them are under 300 animals.
Under.
So it isn't 448, over 300.
we didn't say that.
No, but I just wanna make that, I
Total
think,
feedlots and-
but it's more important what they did after this.
I think one reason too in Norman County, I wasn't here when they wrote that law, but the number under 300 was to kind of protect the people in Norman County if they wanted to start their own and not be, you know, regulated so heavily. Because 300 was for big producers, 300 to 1,000 big producers, Fitzsimmons maybe, and 1,000 and up. But under 300, at that time, they were probably thinking, you know, do we want to over-regulate this thing and, you know, tell everybody that they can't have 10 horses or 10 cows? I don't know, I guess, but there's a reason it's a 300 number up and not below. Like your question is, what's your thought on less than 300?
Yeah, I mean, I don't hear a lot from people as far as opinions go, you know, like, I don't know what we're working with, I don't know what, because I've looked at so many different, you know, township ordinances and county ordinances and everything else, and I don't know even in the ballpark what anybody's even thinking in here.
Yeah, I always just think
It'd be
it's
nice to
2
narrow,
miles, but
you know,
again,
narrow it down.
I got a brother down in Sterling, Colorado, with a population of 12,000. There's a 500 animal feedlot 5 miles west of town, and 1,000 animal feedlot 5 miles north of town. And any given day, you open the door, you swear it's about a block down the street, so 5 mile or a mile, there again, feedlots are gonna be a lot worse than, regular cow calf operation or anything like that, too. But I think a mile would be more fair.
And that's more restricted in the county, so that's. You have what's your timeline on having something adopted, or can you extend that?
It can be extended.
I guess I was hoping like here tonight, we, all our township are having an annual meeting, it'd be nice to take something to them. You know, plus Friday, with all the townships getting together, to have something.
Kind of what I'd like to get, at least, you know, some sort of idea of what everybody's looking at here, instead of just, you know, hearsay is, I hear a lot of hearsay.
I guess the best thing to do is go around and use it a mile, and say a mile. How do you feel?
You don't have to answer, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say well, I mean, just get a ballpark figure, something.
Your mile is measured from the building to that neighboring house.
Yep.
Not the lot line of that property.
The premise of the household would not be,
Building to the household.
no, what do you call it, I don't know, the land lot of that house.
That's not what, this is a private residence in our ordinance. So now you would have to establish the
If it came
boundary
to
lines.
the boundary lines of the household.
So then probably what you're gonna be asking for is that property owner to.
If it had a 10, let's just say it was a 10 acre with the property, or if it was 2 acres with the household, that would be the property line.
You may be asking for the property owner to produce a new survey.
Well, given off whatever is already established in the court records.
You'd be surprised, in court records.
If you bought the whole farm site, that could be 200 acres.
You go over 1 mile and you should have it. If you're going to go over a mile less, you should have it fine for any big operation coming in to have a waiver. You know, the residents around, if it's a mile and a half, 2 miles, you should have a waiver that doesn't, owners around it can waive off, sign off.
Right.
You know, to make it fair with 1 mile.
I'll say no comment.
Yeah, mine seems. From the ready, actual structure.
From the structure.
From the structure to structure?
Come on.
My township isn't in here, so that I am free right now. I'm just that part. But when all the other ones around me are.
For now,
an
you're-
Ordinance, I'm serious.
I think the county already said it, I mean, it said 6 miles from the municipal residents, I don't think it should be any different than the rural residents. Over 1,000 animal units, it should be 2 miles, just like from the municipal boundary.
Couldn't tell you what they did years ago to put that together. That's the way it is.
I guess if you were looking at the offsets, I'd like to see that, 99%. If you're, a mile or right in that area would be, I mean, because that offset, just the way I looked at it, would be between 3/4 and a mile at 99%. I mean, the deal is that the thing I'm thinking of is that the people are already established, and bringing it to them.
I heard Tim from AdvisoryCommitteesJointMeeting2 would also need, not a legal line, but might offer the county some legal protection too, given some of the prejudiced over municipalities and rural residents. Good for one.
I'm just thinking too, on your remark, yeah, the residents are already there, and so we're gonna protect those. What about where you've got the new facility there a mile? I've done a lot of research on some new conditional uses that are coming up. There's a lot of land in between that mile that has no property, or no buildings on it yet. Now what we're telling them, since there's a mile spread, that they can't build there now.
And now, I mean, I'm sure there's a variance for that, was the planning and zoning committee for.
Well, we don't really wanna, yeah, there is a variance
They wanna say,
process.
okay, I wanna put a building there,
House,
house there, okay, you're within that, apply for the variance.
yeah, it could be a tough one though, because we kinda wanna, based on your studies, that there's a reason why you're putting a mile separation there.
Okay, but can't they sign off on that when they know that if they're gonna build something there, that's,
Like building on flood.
that's right.
Well-
You pay, that's right.
Like the setback on the building and.
You own the land, but you may not own it 5 years from now, sell it to somebody else.
That's the stipulation you take with it when you buy it.
And like putting a building closer to the road than you're closer, because you got a permission from planning and zoning. It's a different set.
I don't see any difference.
Setback, it's still setback.
I do wanna call everyone's attention also to the fact that, in the Minnesota legislature right now, they are, there's a bill going through and it is called, what's the name? It's House File 582, which basically, is gonna throw out the possibility of any nuisance lawsuits against cables. So that's something that everybody should realize. That is a possibility that, like what's going on down there in, Osakis. If this bill goes through, they would not have the grounds. And I believe it actually applies even for pending lawsuits as well.
They wouldn't have grounds
To continue suing for nuisance.
Good luck.
So, that's something we're getting to keep in mind too. As far as,
And then the building, you know,
We don't have enough money to sue anybody. Walk on, have any?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I took a trip down and just see what they had down there. Like Lisa said there too, lots of barns. Most of them were right up in their yard or right next to their, yard. So, I don't know. And that's one thing I was kind of curious about is when he said that they didn't have really any issues with any complaints. Well, yeah, if everybody's got a barn in their yard, how are you gonna tell? Did they stink horrible? Not really. Not when I was there. There was a couple that were strong. Driving by. Other than that, that's kind of their thing that they do down there. But there again too, it's, that town of Good Thunder, it's a dying community too. It's a small town, old houses. As far as, at least the way I looked at it, it seemed like there was much for business cropping up there. But, the barns were in good shape.
Fran, I guess,
I don't have anything new. I just wanted to explain information packet that was given out at last meeting that I wasn't present at, but the information packet was laying on the table. Just to review that the human gene, the galatransferase gene, that separates some animals from humans is patented by Alexion Pharmaceuticals. This gene is our immunization gene. This gene is used in hog production, and the CDC warns and notes how viruses can pass between pigs and humans and vice versa. So, as the hogs are acquiring new viruses, humans may not have the natural immune ability to fight it. That was the information that I had placed in that packet last month. That's all I have to say.
Anybody else?
In other words, this is gonna, the building is gonna be built. Is that what it's gonna, it sounds like that's what you're all thinking of. I thought we were here to fight the building.
Not necessarily, we're just sharing information amongst committees to figure out what we can do, where we stand, what the public would like to see, if we have any legal bounds to do anything, what it's gonna cost as far as the townships, what the budget works for that. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into anything that we can do.
And to set structure, it'd be multitude.
Well, I'm sorry I said something, just something like, it's going around and around like, it's gonna be it.
Who handles the regulations on spill or contamination? What is the boundaries or what is the fine limitations on something? I mean, if you got spray drift or spill, unless there's certain regulations and fines on that, what is on livestock in general? I mean, it doesn't matter if it's big cattle or not.
Could be the Department of Health or a duty officer, but if it's just mismanagement, I would assume it would go back to pollution control and the recommendations follow up that's effective, whatever study.
It's more or less a warning,
Could be a
a warning, and then
Could be a fine.
does that fine go per size animal, unit size, or?
Would be more like a judge's decision than that tells you that this and all, so much.
The biggest concern I'm looking at is anybody with a water quality issue or smell, and that you go to a person with 50 animal units compared to 1,000 animal units, if they're gonna get the same fine, it's gonna impact the guy with 50 animal units compared to 1,000. You know, are they gonna go per animal unit per fine, you know?
I would assume that, you know, an health hazardous bill or whatever is all gonna be looked at one way, no matter who it is, because of the size of the operation.
When it comes to fines too, I've also found out that, when the FEC finds a fee fine for, environmental, problem, 75% of that fine is reimbursable, to the owner if that goes, if the fine, if money is used for corrective action. So,
You see the regulations like a hydro spill or a chemical spill or that stuff, you hear $1,000, $5,000 and that stuff. You look at operation of 100,000, that is gonna impact. And if you go to $10 million, that's just peanuts, you know, a lot of these big operations, business, not livestock in general, any business, they'll just pay the fine and get fined and keep doing it. I'm just looking at the futuristic, right? Is this gonna be, some of these fines need to be more of an impact on the big business, to be a more impact on them to clean up their act? Or are they just gonna pay the fines and keep going with it?
Larger contamination normally is a larger fine, they list them sometimes, I know if you go to certified pesticide applicator thing, you might see a list of places that have been fined, the reasons and the amounts.
And it really doesn't matter, you know, when you got it, it doesn't, for operations, 10,000 or 5,000, 2,000, you don't see that big 20,000, 50,000, 100,000, you always see the smaller, small ones. And some of them, like I said, you get a smaller operation, a couple thousand acres compared to 10,000 acres, it's gonna impact that smaller guy. And like I said, it's easy for a big guy, just peanuts thrown on the table and let's keep going.
Any other unfinished business anybody wants to talk about?
Well, this is a scenario I see coming. And I'll have to ask Mark about this, but, what was told to me was that when they got the application form from me, that they were gonna put up 2 buildings, with an entryway in between. They're gonna have an office with a septic system, flush toilet, shower. They're not gonna sleep there, I don't think. And they were gonna have 4,000 piglets. And I don't know what the poundage was, but it was gonna be 200 animal units. So, given that scenario, my role in that is to write the permit for the buildings and the septic system. But before they can even get those permits, they have to survey that land, because they're gonna take and I've got it with me, I think he's got 200, I can't read, I don't have my reading, 320 acres, he's gonna split off like 5 acres or 10 acres or something, in Lockhart's Township. My concern is, one, who counts those pigs in there? But more importantly, if it's 200 animal units and 4,000 little ones, at what point again, and what size are those piglets when it hits that 300 threshold? And where do we get that, and who's gonna go and do that? Who's gonna go into that barn?
The feedlot office.
Well, you could get a pretty good idea by looking at the animals that are coming out, and, some are gonna be dead, of course, but 15 to 55 pound animals, you need so many square feet, size of the building, it all matches. Usually it's pretty close, it's containment, the size of the concrete tank by the amount of manure produced. You can only hide so much, so you wouldn't expect them to say like put twice as much animals in the buildings. It's gonna come very close to what they project.
And I think it'll be 4,000, but there again, so part B. So they get to that level of 299.999, and they're ready to hit 300, because we know what 300 means. So who then tells them?
If there's an expansion, of course, then you'll have to permit for it.
No, we're not, there won't be an
Just gonna
expansion.
squeeze more animals in.
They're eventually gonna hit that 300 threshold by weight alone.
But they take it
No,
up.
Oh, they won't?
No, they'll rotate. They'll feed off so many and move them.
They take
Bring
it like
in
a
more.
certain weight.
They're just taking them from like a light weanling, like 10 pounds to 40 pounds,
Okay.
and then they
15
take
to 55.
50 to 55.
And they'll just keep rotating.
And then they
Some
move them to their
some will
finishing
go out.
facilities.
So our job is to make sure that on our permits, that we address that, and that there's somebody that's overseeing that, not just letting it slide. That's a huge thing, because that shuts them down if they hit 300.
Will they have a manure management
Plan?
plan?
They're not required to because of the small size of the operation. They don't have to have a nutrient management plan. They still have to keep records. They'll have to test the nutrients in the manure, probably every year to start with and every 4 years after that.
And who gives them that information? Is there something that they're given at the time that they're making these applications and whatnot?
I would ask them to make sure they do that. I already gave them that information in a small summary that says this is what's required. So they'll take sample containers when they spread their manure, send them into a laboratory, have that report available to be reviewed. That's more or less all they're required to do. They have to keep records of where they spread their manure for a number of years, crops that are grown there, things like that. But they don't.
Be a compost pile there, or?